Hello, Rank Squad, and welcome to Ranks FC. It's Champions League takeaway here, looking at all the best of the Champions League action this week. My name is Jack Collins, and I'll be your host today. And joining me, my co-host, our transfer guru, Mr. Dean Jones. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. I've just watched the Real Madrid game against Leipzig, so we are literally coming minutes after that has ended. If you listen to this on a pod, obviously we are on YouTube live as well right now. Just testing the water, aren't we? Really, to see if how that changes things. But yeah, obviously this is mainly the Champions League podcast, and important to point out to people that I've had like maybe 10 minutes to digest everything we've just seen there, when you're taking into account the reactions that are literally hot takes, because I'm trying to digest them right now.
Straight off the press, aren't they?
Yeah.
These are the way that it works. But we love doing it, and we love these Champions League takeaway shows. We're going to get straight into it because there's a fair bit to get through, Dean. And we'll start at the Bernabeu, where Real Madrid and RB Leipzig drew 1-1 on the night. Real Madrid progressing 2-1 on aggregate. What did you make of it? What are your three takeaways? Let's get stuck in.
Yeah. Look, the main takeaway is this was a wasted opportunity for Leipzig to pull off the shock of the round, the shock of the year, perhaps. Real Madrid are pretty lucky in a way to be heading into the quarterfinals. Leipzig had 34 chances over the two legs. That's absolutely astounding. They really didn't make the most of it at all. I was shocked at Madrid's approach to this game. Now, I didn't expect them to come out all guns blazing, no. But I thought they'd have some attacking impetus in this game. And apart
Yeah.
from the moment when they get the goal, they really didn't have that. They were passive. They sat off Leipzig. They let them have the ball for long spells in the game. And honestly, Leipzig should have won at the Bernabeu. Openda was so wasteful. It was a little bit unlucky as well, but generally, I hear so much about this guy and how he should be a big transfer target for huge clubs in the summer. And you see his goal scoring record across other competitions. But it wasn't there tonight at all. I thought Leipzig were good in their general play, but when you consider the chances they had here, mate, it really is a missed opportunity. When you play against Real Madrid, especially in the Champions League, and you've got a two-legged affair against them, you've got to hope that they underperform. That's your only chance of getting through that tie. And across these two games, Leipzig could not have hoped for any more. I was looking at the end of the game, and like, you got Dani Olmo looking disappointed and down, and Xavi Simons looks like he's close to tears. And I'm like, it was there, lads. You could have done it. So, yeah, I think that is my overriding feeling right now, which is why that's going to be in at number one. I'll go through all three, and then you can reflect after.
Yeah.
And at number two, honestly, like the lack of a central striker for Real Madrid on nights like this just becomes so obvious. Like, you got Vinicius and Bellingham basically up front, and Vinicius just hugs that left touch line. He's basically on the line for most of the night because he just stands out there waiting to do his thing. And it's fine because when he gets the ball, he's magic. But Bellingham obviously isn't a centre forward, so he plays like an attacking midfielder, really. He's not. He's more of a false nine. He's not a centre forward. Leipzig's defenders had no one to mark all night. It must have felt very weird experience for them, to be honest, because in a sense it was quite easy for them. Whenever Real Madrid got into threatening positions out wide and would look for passes into the box, it would be like Bellingham against 4 or 5 defenders, and most of the time he just cut a bit of a frustrated figure, really. Madrid's midfield setup was odd because it had no dynamism to it. I was surprised they went with the starting lineup that they did. You don't get the best out of Valverde when you're playing in that setup. It's very defensive. I guess having Tchouaméni and Kroos in there together reflects the fact that they just wanted to blunt Leipzig in that area of the field, but I don't think it really worked. Bringing in Rodrigo didn't really even change that much about it. And yeah, Bellingham had to be that guy, and he gets into the box. But it was really tough night for him. And in the end, Real Madrid's goal comes from an incredible Bellingham breakaway after Kroos wins the ball back, and then Vinicius does his thing and scores the goal. But yeah, very, very strange. And I'm not even sure, mate, that Kylian Mbappe is like the answer in scenarios like that, because I'm thinking, well, hang on. He wants to be where Vinicius is anyway. So what are you going to have? The two of them standing out on the left, waiting to break out inside.
It'll be a new tactical setup, wouldn't it? Having two left wingers working together
Mate,
in these spaces to
this
try
is
and do
it.
something.
Because I'm watching it thinking, well, what you really need is a Harry Kane or Erling Haaland. Like that makes in terms of watching this game and thinking, well, what are they missing? Well, they're missing that central figure that would bring things together. Jordan Selvage saying in the comments right now, we were trash, absolutely pathetic performance. Don't know what Carlo was thinking. Just plain stupid. Look, Carlo Ancelotti knows way more about football than me. Not going to dig him out too much for this one, but I do feel he's got away with this to a certain extent. And I guess my third takeaway, mate, is that they won't get away with this beyond this point of the tournament.
Yeah, I mean
That has
we've
to be
seen
it.
them turn it up once this part is passed as well
Yeah.
before. So there is kind of precedent for Real Madrid squeaking past the round of 16. Everyone being like, well, I don't know why we're all so scared of Real Madrid. And then suddenly it gets to the quarterfinals and they're a completely different animal. So I can understand that as well.
Yeah, possibly. And, I heard Owen Hargreaves saying after the game, like, they're like, are Madrid lucky? They haven't played very well. And he's like, well, this is what Madrid do. Like, because they know that they're already 1-0 in front from the first leg. They know that they can turn it on when they have to. They know that they'll have moments in the game. And they're quite content with that sometimes. They don't always go all out for the win. But it just left me with a very uneasy feeling. I mean, this is the team that I've tipped to win the tournament. And I don't think you can pick and choose when you're going to turn it on, because sometimes you'll be caught napping. And tonight, honestly, they've got away with it. Leipzig played reasonably well. No, that's unfair. They played really well at times. They just lacked that instinct in front of goal. And on another day, they would have come away with a famous win. So there's a warning sign here, and it's to me. Madrid might not actually win this competition if they do this again.
I mean, I feel so weird about the idea of talking about Real Madrid in these contexts, and then being like, nah, it's fine, we can write them off after two bad performances, because I don't think this is just in this leg. I don't think they were brilliant in Leipzig either. They've come away with it. They've got through it. They've ground through it. That's what Real Madrid do in these situations, and that's the thing. They've come through two games here where they weren't the better side in either, and they've come out on the right side of it against a very good Leipzig side. That's kind of scary in itself. Now, it's not scary in the same way that City dominated, and we'll talk about them in a minute, but it's scary in itself that they just have that capacity over and over and over again to do that. And look,
Maybe.
Jose says we could have lost bad if Leipzig finished correctly or if Orban started as a striker, which I did enjoy. But it also feels like this was sort of 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, because on the other hand, Dom's here saying, what the hell happened to Openda tonight? I think he just froze on the big stage. Look, there were great opportunities. There were some big ones. Some of them are more unlucky than others. I thought that half volley in the first half was very unfortunate, to go wide. But equally, there are other moments where you're going, one, why aren't you squaring it when these opportunities are... And look, there's a moment really early on where Sesh goes offside, but he doesn't square it. And I wonder if there's a little bit of like, well, if you're not going to pass to me, I'm not going to pass it to you.
That's not great.
Those
That's not
situations,
great.
which isn't ideal. I saw the ever brilliant Carl Anker tweet during this one saying Leipzig wanted to play with their food and they haven't realised that when you play against Real Madrid, you either eat or you be eaten. And I thought it was a really nice way of putting it. I thought Leipzig were good. And you talk about the midfield there. Part of it was a little bit of, okay, yes, Real Madrid are struggling to find any dynamism in those areas. And I think you're absolutely spot on about Valverde not able to influence the game quite as much from that right wing position. But equally, I think you've got to give absolutely loads and loads of credit to this Leipzig midfield, in particular Amadou Haidara, who was absolutely everywhere. As a player that's, had his ups and downs and had great moments and moments where we think that that potential hasn't been completely fulfilled. But I thought he was completely and utterly dominant in the midfield today. And that's an incredible thing to achieve, against a midfield of this kind of quality from Real Madrid, even if they're having an off night.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt about that. And if you were to do player ratings, then Leipzig leave Madrid's team in the shade. It's just that they haven't got the outcome that they should have got from this game, and you don't get, as I say, many opportunities to win over two legs, and certainly not to win the tie at the Bernabeu. And that was there for them tonight, and they'll be kicking themselves that they let this pass. But yeah, the old Bellingham Vinicius partnership. It didn't have many moments tonight, but it had one that counted, and it'd seen them through to the quarterfinal draw.
Yeah, had a massive one that counted incredibly, for an incredible amount to Real Madrid as well. Let's flip over to Manchester, where City won 3-1 against Copenhagen, which meant it was 6-2 on aggregate. My three takeaways are thus. One, City's depth is mental. A brilliant moment on the commentary tonight where Joel, who was the chief statistician, was called out by name because he brought out this fact that the subs on City's bench had 1,684 senior appearances between them and 271 goals. De Bruyne, Foden, Bernardo Silva, Walker, Stones, etc., etc. It was an incredible bench. And Pep made 7 changes because he was comfortable with the system, comfortable with rotating players in. And I think all that goes to show is, how deep this City squad is. Now, do I think that he would start this exact 11 in any Premier League one-off game? No, I don't. Because in a one-off game, things can happen. And there were moments in this where it felt almost like, oh, with the right kind of execution, a side could have put City to the sword a little bit in an attacking sense, not in a defensive sense where they were still, brilliantly. But in terms of actually getting at them, it felt like there was a sense that City had gaps that aren't normally there. And it takes us on, to number 2, which was that Copenhagen had their moments, but even then, it felt a lot of the time like it was, I hesitate to say men versus boys because that's really unfair. It was a Copenhagen side that worked incredibly hard, that once they went 2-0 down, seemed to free up and actually become more expansive and go, all right, well, we've got nothing to lose at this point. Our fans have travelled. They're in unbelievable voice. They are having a great day. And as soon as they scored the first one, it was like, wow, they've seen the moment. The moment was scoring at the Etihad in a Champions League round of 16 tie. And we talk about this tie right at the beginning. It was the top-ranked side against the bottom-ranked side in the round of 16. Now, shocks are available. Lots of different things can happen. But as soon as City had a win in the first leg, it felt almost impossible. They are almost unbeatable at the Etihad. They haven't lost a game since December the 6th when they lost to Aston Villa. And just generally, it just feels like once City have that lead against you, you could almost play any iteration of the squad that Pep has at his disposal, and they were going to get the job done tonight. But equally, the way that City started and the way that they roared into the game, 2 goals in the first 10 minutes, the tie was done by that point. And I wanted to just give some credit to Copenhagen because not only did they come here and show real bravery and fight and actually not lie down and roll over, which a lot of teams I think could do with that scoreline. Bear in mind, they've just had a massive winter break. They're only a couple of games back after that. It just does feel like a lot of teams would have been like, you know what? We've got a title race to maintain domestically. We've got other fires burning that we need to make sure are all working. We don't need to expend energy on this. And they didn't do that whatsoever. So not only was it an incredible achievement to get out of the groups for this side, especially in a difficult group, but to go there and perform like this, I thought, was really, really impressive. And even if City were clearly the better side and dominant, and I just loved the fire and spark that kept this Copenhagen side going with serious injuries, with massive, players missing from this side who've been key in the Champions League and in the group stages getting them out. To go there with a number of teenagers, I think the stat was that Copenhagen started the most teenagers in a Champions League game since Ajax in 1996. To then go and perform like this was admirable in so many different ways. And I just wanted to give them a bit of a shout out for that. the flip side is that my third takeaway is that this was the perfect game for City between the weekends where they had a Manchester derby, which is not only emotionally massively draining for fans, but also one of those moments that felt like it could have been a banana skin in the title race. And then Liverpool at Anfield at the weekend. And between those, you've got a Champions League second leg that is only two ahead. And you're like, okay, how do we deal with the situation? How do we roll with it? What moves can we make here that allows us to rest the right number of players, the right kind of players, to give the players who have struggled with injuries and who have played a lot recently the breather, without one disrespecting the opposition, who have already showed that they, are something to be handled in Europe, but also with being able to maintain that sense of run and that sense of the sense of community and camaraderie within the side that you don't want to lose. But there were times that this felt like a training exercise, and actually that's dreamy for Manchester City. In that there were periods where they kept the ball. There were periods in the second half where they were tested defensively. I think all of those things matter because that's putting stress tests on parts of this side that haven't necessarily been stress tested in the same way. And I think that that's huge for City in all of the right ways going into what is a crunch game at the weekend. I don't think this could have gone any better for Pep if he tried. Because if you said, all right, you're going to win 6-0 and walk all through them and there will be no kind of jeopardy whatsoever, they don't gain anything from that. I think there are gains tonight from actually having to face a side that really did give them challenges at different points and in different ways.
Yeah, no, fair enough. I'll give a shout out to Zodiac here, who says, honestly, it's not because of strength that Copenhagen does that. It's because they struggle with transfers and also struggle in the league because of that. I'm Danish. I like FC Copenhagen, but support the rivals. But good job. They scored twice against City over the two games. I see Rooney Bargi wasn't even one of those players that started, was he?
No, it wasn't. And I wonder if that's just a little bit of maintaining presence, keeping him out of the limelight a little bit, just trying
Yeah.
not to overawe people. I don't mind that at all, I'll be honest.
Yeah, I don't think he started even in the class. I'm not sure how many league games, but certainly when I looked at the other day, he wasn't playing either. And I was a bit surprised by that. But like you say, maybe they're trying to keep him under wraps a little bit and not get too carried away. But yeah, ideal game for Man City to go and run away with a result like that, as you would expect them to. But sometimes it's easier said than done, Just talk there about how Real Madrid failed to perform tonight. And Man City never really seemed like they were going to struggle to perform on this occasion. And it's a morale boost as well to just keep that momentum going, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Some nice moments for the youngsters as well, coming on and getting that moment. And Jacob Wright coming on for Erling Haaland for his Champions League debut in the 80s. At one point, it didn't look like the ball was going to go out of play and he wasn't going to get on. But there was, some nice moments with Haaland as he walks over towards him and he sees who's replacing him and gets that like, oh, yes, cool. And you can see it beam on Haaland's face as well, which is quite nice. I like that, I think
Yeah.
that's a fun space to be in. And it shows the band around this team and the bond within it. A lot of people have made fun of what's going on in the dressing room, some of the trailers from different bits of this documentary that's coming out. But I think that there is, whilst they are unbelievably brilliant and whilst they're an expensively assembled squad, I don't think there's any doubt that it feels like a side that are together moving forward at this point in the season.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Alrighty. Shall we move on to Tuesday? And let's talk about Bayern Munich because they won 3-0 against Lazio to progress 3-1 on aggregate. Coming from behind, it wasn't all plain sailing, but Bayern Munich getting a big result at a moment in the season where things felt like they could turn critical.
Relief. That is the first big takeaway. Relief for Munich as a city, relief for every Bayern fan in the stadium, relief for Thomas Tuchel on the touchline, and relief for Harry Kane, who was actually getting fed the ball, which is what he needs if he's going to score all of these goals. He's well into his 30s now in terms of the goal count, and he's holding up his side of the bargain here, Harry Kane. You've just got to give him the ball, and he will stick that ball in the back of the net. Look, Tuchel's relieved. He probably would have gone by now if Bayern Munich hadn't have won this game. They created more chances in this one than they did in Rome. And were more intense in their play, and that's what Tuchel would have liked and what he probably wanted in the first leg. I think some of that Bayern pedigree did shine through this time, but I think also that Tuchel would have been relieved at the atmosphere that helped generate this win. The Allianz is one of the best Champions League stadiums when it's like rocking. And I really feel like the crowd played their part here. Now, other clubs might have taken an opposite stance here if things didn't start well. And I've seen it happen. You feel like, right, if we lose this one, then this chump is gone even earlier than he says he's going to go. So if we lose, it's not the end of the world. But that didn't seem to be the Bayern mentality around this one at all.
I don't think there is any club in the world who, in the second leg of a Champions League round of 16 game, when they're down 1-0, would have been like, okay, it's all right as long as the manager goes. I've got to say, there are definitely circumstances in which I've seen that happen in league games, in big games, but I don't think at that point, especially if you're 1-0 down, if they were 4-0 down, maybe, but like not 1-0 down to a side that are inferior to them.
But they really did get behind this team, and it was a really good atmosphere inside the ground. And I think it was the togetherness and the spirit that was there and felt kind of overwhelming, to be honest, in terms of helping them over the line and into the quarterfinal draw. Now, obviously, there's also a lot of relief for Harry Kane. You talk about not wanting somebody to do well. There really is a feeling in this country right now that there's a lot of people that don't want Harry Kane to succeed at Bayern. I really am getting that vibe, and like I think it's funny.
Quite think it's funny.
I think it's funny in a way, but I'm more finding it funny just that Bayern won't win the league. Like that's what I find more funny. But I think that there's a lot of people in this country that don't want Kane to win anything there. And wouldn't it be kind of funny if it's Kane lifting the Champions League trophy at Wembley at the end of this season? Here we go. Bayern Munich are dark horses to win this competition, and that's a dangerous place to be.
It's a dangerous place to be for Bayern Munich, who will not like the idea that they're dark horses.
I think they will. I think they'll play on that. I think they'll absolutely play on that. I think that's a fantastic situation for Bayern to be in. Number two, my point here is going to be that Thomas Muller is magic. Yeah. And
I was going to add this if you didn't, because I wanted to dress it up as all we hear is Radio Muller.
Mate, he said last night after the game, maybe we are back in the race. And honestly, as Mr. Bayern Munich, people said that Bayern were dead and he took that personally because this was a hell of a performance. His movements in this game were so defining. And, you know, when you talk about Champions League greats or just, you know, the GOATs of an era, and you look at Messi and Ronaldo and Mbappé and Haaland, Muller's not like them, right? He's not the athletes that they are. He's not the same type of person as them. But this is one of the Champions League greats. Every good attacking moment was orchestrated by this man pulling people out of positions. He has great decision making. He has a deftness to him that's really, really hard to master. He's accurate. He's reliable. He's 34 now, but that really doesn't matter at all.
Yeah, I was going to say this because, like, it's not like his game is based on speed or athleticism. He's never been quick or supremely strong. He is an intelligent, incredible footballer at finding spaces. I mean, he is the original space interpreter, right? So you kind of look at that and you think, all right, well, how long could you go for? And the answer is maybe 5-6 more years, because there's nothing about that game that suggests that he shouldn't be able to do that. He is the immovable object, right? How many managers have come into Bayern and been like, right, that era is over. The Muller era is over. We're done with that now. And how many managers have been moved on because they're like, we need to get Thomas Muller back in the side. Look, Kovac tried it, got replaced by Flick. What did Flick do? Won everything by bringing Thomas Muller right back into the heart of everything. Yeah. Nagelsmann had a think about it. We've seen Tuchel have a think about it. He's going to be gone in the summer. Do you know who's not going to be gone in the summer? Thomas Muller.
Absolutely no chance. Look, this is a great moment for him to to kind of show his personality on the pitch as well as even in his interviews afterwards. He's got that cheeky edge to him, hasn't he? Like he's a very funny guy, but he's also serious in the fact that like he doesn't want to be humiliated. He doesn't want Bayern Munich being the butt of jokes. That's unacceptable to him.
Yeah.
And it really did feel like that shone through here. I think we should point out that like Bayern's goals were all scored from like 6 yards in this game.
They're the kind of
Tap-in
goals that Thomas
merchants.
Muller likes.
He can be a tap-in merchant for the rest of his days. He will not care.
They all count the same, mate. They all
They
count the
do all
same.
count the same. The third point is a bit of a random one. But did you see in the lead up to the second goal, the one that Muller scored, the corner kick routine where both Kimmich and Guerrero stand over it, and they're both standing at the corner, one about to take it right-footed, one about to take it left-footed, and I genuinely thought Kimmich was going to take the kick the way that he started to move, and it's Guerrero that takes it, and it was just a small moment, but I thought, do you know what? If I watched it back again, and I was like, there's just a slight movement from the defenders, and it leads to the Lazio defenders just shuffling one foot the wrong way, moving their body back. It takes a glance off somebody's head, goes back to the far post. De Ligt hits the shot back across goal, and Muller kind of glances it in, and it goes in. These small moments, these small quirks, set the big teams apart, and that was just like.
I don't think I've ever seen a team have two people at the corner flag like that before. You see it a lot with free kicks, obviously, and we talked about Real Sociedad, having that 4 dummy free kick that they tried against PSG that really worked in the first leg. I don't think I've ever seen a team do it with a corner before. It's an interesting one, isn't it? Because it pulls a man out that you don't necessarily want out there, but it does give you a little bit of an advantage in terms of defenders can't quite work out if it's an in-swinger or an out-swinger.
Yeah, exactly that. But it just made me think, do you know what? As that goal unfolded, I was like, there's life in the old dog yet. Like Bayern are not dead. Drav says, unfortunately, Muller is retiring next year, number 25 in 2025, with the Champions League Munich final.
Drav also says, I'll travel from India to Munich if we make it to that final. Look, who knows? It's a bit like Brown. You never write Bayern Munich off. It's just one of those things that doesn't happen. I also wanted to add this, and Drew said I wanted to mention this here. That De Ligt tweet from you was top tier. I still haven't recovered from that. Sam put this immediately in our WhatsApp chat, being like, "Stop that right now," because I tweeted, "Oh, there's De Ligt at the end of the tunnel for Bayern Munich," which I enjoyed. Look, I'm going to put it out there. I thought it was a good one. But just on that topic, De Ligt just turning randomly into Marco van Basten for a minute. I know he's Dutch, but it was really quite something. Now, it feels a bit unfair that goal has been correctly, but also just taken off him. That goal is, 100% in my head, scored by Matthias De Ligt.
Only because the commentator in England went so mad saying it was his goal.
No, I just think from the first angle, you're like, that's just gone straight in the corner. What a volley!
Just
That
the
is
camera angle.
outrageous.
It wasn't at all.
I mean, it takes not at all. And I think that it's a great header from Muller and great reactions, right, as we talk about, but. De Ligt must be furious. De Ligt thought it was his goal. The way he celebrated. De Ligt thought he'd scored.
Yeah, maybe at first. I'll tell you what's even hotter than that. Tottenham's 5th choice centre-back now starts for Bayern Munich in big Champions League night.
And was really quite good. Really quite good. I thought he was excellent across the course of this game.
I mean, obviously, like this is due to issues and the fact that Upamecano cannot live life without a red card these days. But yeah, things I did not expect to see was Eric Dyer marching through to a Champions League quarterfinal this year.
Unbelievable. Yes, very well done, Bayern. Felt like a big win. Felt like, as you say, a win that was full of relief and like big exhale in Bavaria from everyone involved. But they got there in the end. They're in the hat. So far, all of the favourites through into that quarter-final. Just a quick tangent from Zodiac, because does Ranks FC play FPL as well? Do both you play UCL Fantasy? I don't play UCL Fantasy, but for more from Dean on Fantasy Football, probably worth pointing out that he has another channel, Chasing Green Arrows, talks all about FPL. So Zodiac, reckon you check that one out. And on that, let's move over to the final game of this week. Real Sociedad 1, PSG 2, 4-1 to PSG on aggregate. Now, I'm going to start here with 3 because this is what we used to do. But I think my third point is that Luis Enrique got this so right. And in a game where in the first leg they were very difficult and they had a very difficult time of it to break the Real Sociedad press, especially in the first half. They were probably the second best side in that first half at the Park. And the way that Real Sociedad were up in their faces and not allowing them to get into the positions that they needed to do was really interesting. And Enrique got this absolutely spot on with the way he set this up. Now, when you looked at the front three of Kylian Mbappe, Ousmane Dembele, and Bradley Barcola, you'd probably imagine, on paper, that it was going to be Barcola on the left and then Mbappe through the middle with Dembele on the right. But that wasn't how it worked out at all. What happened was Ousmane Dembele came back into almost the exact role that Jude Bellingham plays for this Real Madrid side and played in that space with Mbappe hugging the left touchline and Barcola hugging that right touchline. And what it did was it allowed them a numerical superiority in the midfield with Dembele dropping into those spaces and sort of on the half turn waiting to release that basically bypassed that Real Sociedad press and came into a really good space for how PSG wanted to execute their game plan. And twice then, Kylian Mbappe gets in behind and makes Real Sociedad pay. And PSG are 2-0 up by the time that Real Sociedad score their goal. The game is done, dead, dusted. And I just thought that in pretty much every count here, Enrique got this one right. Nuno Mendes had a phenomenal game on the left-hand side, cutting down anything that came down his wing, but dealing as well, I thought really well with Taki Kubo, who is an incredible player who we like a lot on this channel. Just the whole way this sorted out. Beraldo did brilliantly in his second ever Champions League game, stepping in here and looking every inch the player that PSG expect him to be. Luka Hernandez came inside to play left centre-back for long periods of it. He was brilliant as well. The whole thing worked a dream, but I think so much of this is down to Luis Enrique and the tactical setup that he employed. And as we come to this point, right, and we'll speak about Mbappe on his own in a bit, but as we come to this point where PSG are moving on, or separating from Kylian Mbappe, Kylian Saint-Germain no more from next season, I don't think they could be in better hands. Because with a young core, a very flexible young core with an incredible amount of talent, Luis Enrique is the man you want in charge of this setup. Absolutely no doubt about it. And I thought he proved his credentials again yesterday with the setup that PSG employed. So really impressive. My second point is that Anoeta deserved its goal. Real Sociedad won a group that had Inter in it. This Inter side. And were brilliant when they went to Benfica as well. They had a really tricky task to get out of this group. And they won it on goal difference, but they won the group. And they deserve no amount of credit. I can't give them enough credit for winning that group. It was such a difficult ask, and they were brilliant in the group stages. They were undone away at PSG by 2 excellent goals, but they played really well for long periods of that game. And whilst they weren't quite as effective, I didn't think, last night, and while PSG finally found a way to nullify their threats and get to those spaces, the moment that they scored, the place went absolutely off, like they'd scored the winner that was sending them through. And all night, the Real Sociedad fans were sensational. I just thought that I can't remember a team earning a goal in a tie like this more than Real Sociedad earned their goal last night. And even though it was the deflected one that ended up in the back of the net, they'd hit the bar. They'd had 2 really good saves from Gigi Donnarumma just beforehand. It all just felt like, it's not going to fall for them. It's not going to fall for them. And I was absolutely delighted. Real Sociedad have been a credit to this competition. And the fact that it's been such a long time since they were back in it, to perform the way they did in the group stages, they got given an unholy difficult draw by the fact that they won the group and PSG came second. And they're also on a dreadful run of form right now. This happens with Real Sociedad. We've seen it before. It gets to the sort of January, February period, and they struggle a little bit to maintain what they've done in the first half of the season. This isn't new. But despite that, I thought they gave a really good account of themselves over the course of these 2 legs, but also this competition in general. And I just wanted to give them some praise because I think in all of the headlines about Mbappe, which you're going to do, they sometimes go under the radar. And I thought they've had a phenomenal tournament. So shouts out Imino Alguacil, shouts out this La Real side. They've been great. But Mbappe boss this game. Boss man Mbappe. It's all I've written as the takeaway. Boss man Mbappe. Because Kylian's had a funny time of it of late, right? He's had a weird couple of weeks. He's been taken off in various games. He's had moments where he's talking in the press and there's all these conversations and people are saying, is there a problem between you and Luis Enrique? And he's going, no, there's no problem. Enrique's coming out being like, I love Mbappe. He's a great player, but he's not going to be here next year. We need to get used to it. And there was a lot of chat before this game about this. And I thought it was unfair maybe on the rest of the PSG players and Enrique a little bit, because it was like, I can't believe why you take him off at 0-0 against Monaco. PSG got better on Friday night when they played Monaco and they brought Mbappe off. They were much better second half. Felt more dynamic. There was a bit more cohesion in the side. And it's a difficult situation that needs to be managed appropriately. Here, Mbappe was given the full kind of, here's the keys to the castle. You've got the armband. You lead this side. You play the 90 minutes. Show us what you're made of. And he did. Right. And he did. And I think that that's the way we're going to see this for the rest of the year. If PSG weren't, 10 points clear at the top of Ligue 1, maybe it'd be different. But they are. And so he's going to utilize Luis Enrique, that opportunity to experiment, see what he needs next year when Mbappe's not there, because he has that cushion. But I think that there will be an agreement and understanding there that he still has the keys in the Champions League for as long as they progress in it. And that kind of agreement, I think, actually works for both parties, because it allows PSG to experiment a little bit more. It allows Mbappe to just be like, okay, I'm not going to get injured before I make my big move to Real Madrid. But also then when he comes to these games, he's got to be able to turn it up. And it's exactly what he did. The first goal is so good. It's so good. One, he bursts the net with how good a strike it is. But more than that, just the turn inside to free up that space, it's magnificent. There are so few players in the world who could do what Mbappe does there. And the second one is just straight killer. It's give the keeper the eyes and come across him near post. And Thierry Henry was on Monday Night Football on Sky Sports, right? And he was talking about this exact position where you get into that kind of corner of box and and the keeper, you're bearing down on the keeper coming in from the wing. And there's been plenty of those comparisons, right? Mbappe, Thierry Henry, both came through at Monaco, lots of different things. But Henry was like, I always went far corner. I knew exactly what I was going to do. I don't care if the keeper knew what I was going to do. I knew that I could do it. Mbappe just sends the keeper so far the wrong way that he's already halfway on the spring by the time Mbappe drills it back into that near post. It is a cold finish. Cold. There is ice in his veins at that exact point. And this is the kind of player that can transform this Real Madrid side. Whether they will be able to do that in terms of how he operates and what it looks like, I don't know. But if I trust one man to get it right, it's Carlo Ancelotti. It's scary. If he's playing like this and performing like this and is this cold in front of goal, Mbappe in that Real Madrid side is scary, so scary for everything else.
Yeah, I mean, he's made for Madrid. He's absolutely made for it in terms of ego, in terms of style, in terms of finesse. Like he's just magical. There aren't enough superlatives to describe Kylian Mbappe, and we've done it a million times. I don't know how exactly it'll fit. The way it most naturally works is for him to play through the middle when he gets to Real Madrid, but he's not going to want to do that. So I'm going to be like very, very intrigued as to how you fit him and Vinicius into that same setup and keep them both happy. Maybe they're going to play 1 week on, 1 week off.
I don't think either of them will be particularly happy with that.
It just doesn't make sense, like in terms of how it works if Mbappe doesn't play through the middle. But he's too good coming off the flank. This is the problem. You're taking something massive away from Kylian Mbappe if you're starting him centrally. Like at a lesser level, it's like whenever Marcus Rashford plays for Man United through the middle, it's pointless because you're just restricting so much of his game. And the way that he likes to open up his opportunities is by cutting in a certain way. And this is like, maybe this is the new striker. This is the modern day forward. Like Vinny, Mbappe, Rashford, these guys, like, they want to make their own magic and open up those spaces. And you just have the guy in the centre is really to open up space more than be the goal scorer in these sorts of setups. But yeah, he's unbelievable. You see him give the interviews after. He's like, that's what I do. Literally, it's just that's what I do. His English, by the way, the interviews he gives is impeccable. Like he's got the language absolutely mastered, and he ain't even coming here. But it's so
This is a
he's
man
just such
comfortable in his own skin.
mate. He's so impressive, like in everything he does. Zodiac says in the comments when Mbappe was subbed after 45 minutes in the league, he went sitting with his family for the rest of the game. Kind of weird behaviour. I don't know that it is, to be honest with this guy. I think he's just like cool, like done my bit, like gaffer,
I think
like
it's definitely
I'll
a
make
part
a
of
bit of a
that.
point. I'll make a point of it. Like I want to get some photos of the fact I'm obviously not happy with this, so I'll go and do this. But if it was Ronaldo, there would be like more edge and like it's not like that. I don't think Mbappe is ever going to quite have that Ronaldo ego. But there's
I,
if he
I
didn't
actually
have that
disagree.
little
I
edge
think
to
this
him,
is
he
to
wouldn't be
do.
this good.
I think this is to do with the fact that it was at Monaco. Obviously, he wanted to go there and be like, "I'm the guy," and he didn't get a great reception from how it was. And I think he was just like, you know what? It's just I'm just gonna go and sit up there. But I don't think any of it matters because if he plays like this in the Champions League for PSG, they'll continue to rotate him in the league. I have no doubt about it whatsoever. They will continue to rotate him. But in the Champions League, they're going to keep chucking him the keys and be like, "Look, if you can leave us with this as your leaving gift, your parting gift to Paris." I think everyone will be like, "Thanks very much. That was good. Enjoyed it. See you later." So we'll see. We will see. And with that, I think it's probably time for us to call it a day here on Ranks FC Champions League Takeaway. Thank you so much for tuning in. Everybody who's been here on YouTube Live and in the comments, thank you very, very much. Everyone who's listening right now on the podcast as well, we really appreciate you guys as well. Here on the channel tomorrow, there will be a UE Ultras, which we're looking at all the Europa League action going on Thursday night and a look back at what happened today. But for now, thank you very much to my co-host, Mr. Dean Jones.
Cheers, mate.
I've been Jack Collins. This has been Ranks FC. Thank you so much for listening as ever, and we'll see you all very shortly. Take it easy, gang. Peace.